Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise and really focus on what's driving change. Today we're looking at something pretty significant. A quote from Monica Long, who's the president of Ripple. She said, "Banks no longer ask if they should tokenize, but how." That sounds simple, but it feels like a major turning point. So for you listening, we want to break down what this tokenization thing actually is. Why are these, normally very cautious banks suddenly jumping in? How are they planning to do it? And maybe most importantly, what
Roadblocks are they hitting? We really want you to get a clear handle on this shift, not just the headlines.
Yeah, and that quote, especially coming from Monica Long at Ripple, I mean, Ripple's right in the middle.
Okay, let's start right there, that tokenization.
Hmm.
For anyone listening who maybe hasn't followed it super closely, what exactly are we talking about? What does it mean in, practical terms?
Right. So at its core, tokenization is basically taking an asset, could be something traditional like a bond, a stock, maybe a piece of property, could even be something like artwork, and creating a digital representation of it on a blockchain. Think of it like getting a digital title or certificate that's recorded on this secure shared database, the blockchain.
Okay, a digital twin.
Exactly. And the real magic, or maybe the key benefit, is what that enables. Suddenly, ownership of that asset can be transferred almost instantly. You can also break it down into tiny pieces. That's fractionalization. So, you could theoretically own 0.01% of a commercial building.
Which you couldn't easily do before.
Not easily, no.
Yeah.
And it makes selling it, liquidation, much faster, too. Plus, it often cuts out a lot of the middlemen, which can save time and money.
That fractional part alone sounds pretty revolutionary. But back to the banks. The really interesting bit is them moving from if to how. Why the change of heart? What's really pushing them? It feels like more than just adopting new tech.
Oh, absolutely. It's a combination of powerful drivers. First off, there's just the sheer potential for efficiency. Settling big financial transactions, especially cross-border, can currently take days. T+2, T+3, sometimes longer.
Right, the old system.
Yeah, with tokenization on blockchain,
We're talking about settlement that could happen in minutes or even seconds, near instant. JP Morgan's Onyx platform is a great real-world case. They've used it for tokenization. Second big thing, access to new markets. This fractionalization idea we mentioned, it's not just neat tech. It means you can take really high-value assets, think commercial real estate, private equity funds, things usually only accessible to big institutions or very wealthy individuals, and you can break them into smaller, more affordable tokens.
So regular investors could potentially get involved.
Potentially, yes. It could democratize access to investment opportunities that were previously closed off. And for the banks, well, that means a vastly expanded potential customer base. Think about the implications for financial inclusion.
That is a big deal. But okay, digital assets, blockchain, there's often skepticism around security and transparency. How does tokenization address that? Does it actually make things more secure?
That's a fair question. The underlying blockchain technology, whether it's a public one or a private, permissioned one that banks often prefer, provides an immutable record. Every transaction is recorded permanently and transparently to those with permission on a private chain. This inherently reduces the risk of fraud because you can't easily tamper with the history. That can build trust.
Immutable, so unchangeable.
Exactly. And finally, it just comes down to competitiveness. In today's financial world, if your competitors are offering faster, cheaper, more innovative services based on tokenization, like tokenized funds or new digital asset custody options, you risk getting left behind if you don't explore it too.
Staying ahead of the curve, basically.
Precisely. And the market forecasts are adding pressure. You mentioned McKinsey earlier. Their 2023 report suggested the tokenized asset market could hit $2 trillion by 2030, driven by things like real estate, bonds, commodities. That's not a market you can easily ignore.
$2 trillion.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so the why is becoming clearer. Efficiency, new markets, security, competition. Let's get practical then. If banks are past if, how do they actually do it? What are the steps? Is it like flipping a switch or more complex?
Definitely not flipping a switch. It's a very methodical process and often starts small with pilots. The first step is usually a careful evaluation of assets. Banks need to figure out which of their assets are actually good candidates for tokenization. Is there market demand? Is it liquid enough? Does tokenizing it solve a real problem? You wouldn't just tokenize everything randomly. Bonds, maybe certain loans, investment funds, those are common starting points.
Makes sense. Pick the right tool for the right job. What's next?
Then comes the technology selection. This is crucial. Do they use a public blockchain like Ethereum, maybe for broader reach? Or a private permissioned blockchain like Hyperledger Fabric, which gives them more control? There are trade-offs, you know. Public chains offer more interoperability sometimes. Private ones offer more control and privacy. Companies like Ripple also offer specific platforms, particularly for things like cross-border payments that can integrate with these tokenization efforts.
Okay, tech choice. Then what?
Then maybe the elephant in the room? Regulatory compliance. This is huge and complex. Banks operate in highly regulated environments. They absolutely have to work hand in glove with regulators, the SEC in the US, MiCA rules in Europe, various bodies elsewhere to make sure these new digital tokens comply with all the existing securities laws, AML rules, everything.
That sounds like a massive headache, navigating different rules in different countries.
It is. It's one of the biggest challenges, frankly, and it's constantly evolving.
Okay, so you've picked your asset, chosen your tech, navigated the regulators. What about making it work with everything else they already have? Banks have ancient systems sometimes.
You nailed it. That's the integration with existing systems challenge. You've got this new cutting-edge blockchain platform, and you need it to talk smoothly with, sometimes decades-old legacy banking infrastructure. Building those interfaces, those bridges, ensuring data flows correctly and securely, that's a major technical
Undertaking. It requires significant investment.
Right, connecting the new highway to the old city streets, like you said.
Yeah, something like that. And lastly, but definitely not least, is education and adoption. You can build the
Education, both internal and external.
Got it. So are we seeing this happen in the real world? Can you give us some concrete examples of banks that are actually, walking the walk?
Oh, absolutely. This isn't just theory anymore. We mentioned JP Morgan's Onyx platform. They've been very public about using it for things like tokenized deposits and repo market transactions, really testing blockchain for core banking functions.
Yeah. JP Morgan. Who else?
Goldman Sachs has also been quite active. They've explored tokenizing assets like bonds, looking at how it could make capital markets more efficient. They even launched a digital asset platform. And over in Europe, Societe Generale actually issued security tokens, like a tokenized bond, directly onto the public Ethereum blockchain a few years back. That was a pretty landmark move, showing it could be done even on public chains for certain use cases.
So, major players are definitely experimenting, even implementing.
Yes, significant players are putting real resources into this. It's moving beyond just proof of concept.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly promising, almost revolutionary in some ways. But it can't all be easy. What are the big hurdles, the major challenges banks are really grappling with as they try to implement this?
You're right, the challenges are significant. We touched on regulation already, but it bears repeating. The lack of global standardization is a major issue. What's allowed in Switzerland might be different from Singapore, which is different from the US or the EU with its MiCA framework. For global banks, navigating this complex,
fragmented regulatory landscape is a huge operational burden and source of uncertainty.
A patchwork quilt of rules.
Exactly. Then there's interoperability, which we also mentioned. Yeah, and security. Now, the core blockchain ledger itself is generally considered very secure, that immutable aspect. But the risks often lie in the surrounding ecosystem. Think about the platforms used to issue the tokens, the digital wallets where customers hold them, the exchanges where they might be traded. These peripheral systems can be vulnerable to cyber attacks, hacks, and theft. Ensuring end-to-end security is paramount, and it's hard.
So the chain might be strong, But the links around it need to be just as strong.
Precisely. Then there's the client adoption piece again. Will customers, especially retail customers or more conservative institutional clients, actually want these tokenized products? There can be hesitancy due to unfamiliarity, perceived risks, or just inertia. Banks need to overcome that skepticism through education and by demonstrating clear value.
Building trust takes time.
It does. And finally, let's not forget the initial cost. Setting up blockchain infrastructure, developing the platforms, integrating them, training staff, it all requires significant upfront investment. For the giant global banks, maybe that's manageable. But for smaller regional or community banks, the cost could be a major barrier to entry, potentially creating a bit of a divide.
Okay, so quite a few hurdles to clear. Regulation, tech integration, security, adoption, and cost. It's definitely not a simple path. So wrapping this up for you, our listener, the statement from Monica Long really does mark a key moment. Tokenization seems to have moved from the what-if column to the how-to column on the strategic agenda for many banks. The potential upsides efficiency, new markets, better products are clearly massive. But as we've heard, making it a reality requires really careful planning, big tech investments, and crucially, ongoing collaboration with regulators. It's a complex journey ahead.
It absolutely is. And maybe a final thought for you to chew on, something to consider as this unfolds. If tokenization really takes hold and allows for fractional ownership of almost anything, real estate, art, private companies, infrastructure projects, how might that fundamentally change how we think about wealth itself? How could it redefine investment opportunities, not just for institutions, but for individuals all around the world? What new possibilities might that open up for you personally in the coming years? It's a pretty profound question to ponder.